Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the GMRS 1900 Net on this second day of June 2020. This is Mike, WQIP827, and I'll be your net control for the evening. Before proceeding to the net, we're going to check for any stations with emergency or priority traffic. Any emergency or priority traffic, please call in now. Hearing none, if during the net there is any emergency or priority traffic, you're free to break in at any time. The GMRS 1900 Net is a directed net, where we discuss matters relating to GMRS and various other topics. While a directed net is in operation, all radio traffic must go through net control. This net is normally held every Tuesday on the Phoenix High Power 550 repeater, transmitting on 462.550 from the White Tanks at 7 p.m., also known as 1900 hours. The net is normally conducted utilizing a national travel tone of 141.3 hertz. If you do not have that tone installed in your radio, you should do so as soon as practical. Participation in the net is still possible using the regular club tones by placing your radio into monitor mode. All participants are encouraged to use monitor mode during the net to ensure that you don't miss anyone transmitting on a different tone. The GMRS 1900 Net website can be found at www.AZGMRS.org and is run by the Arizona GMRS Repeater Club. We'll start the net by asking for check-ins from our Zello users first, and after that, I'll ask for check-ins from our RF users. After check-ins are complete, we will pose our topic and ask for input. When you take your turn, we just ask that you keep it short and to the point so that any questions or comments can be properly addressed by all. I would also remind you that when you are through with the conversation, please clear with your assigned FCC call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic before we continue? If so, please call in now. This is WQIP827, hearing none. We'll now take check-ins from our Zello users only. Zello users only at this time, please.
WQZZ533, Jeff.
WQYQ594, Jay.
Okay, I got 533 Jeff and 594 Jay. Any other Zello users? Okay, hearing none, we'll now check-ins from our RF users. Please check in two at a time with your name and call sign. Please speak slowly, giving a few seconds of pause between transmissions so that I may write down the information.
This is Bob, WRCM 701.
This is Rich, WQDZ 664.
Thank you, 701 and 664. Continue check-in. WRFS 636, Keith. Thank you, 636. I've got you down. Any other check-ins?
WRCG 640, Adam.
Thank you, Adam. Continue check-ins.
WRCG 637, Steve.
WRFV 254, Mike.
Okay, I got 637 and 254. Continue check-in, please.
WRFP 808, Mark.
WRBT 836, Pat.
Okay, copy 808 and 836. Any other check-ins?
WQZ 645, Gary.
QWR 795, Attila.
Thank you, Gary and Attila. Got both of you. Any other check-ins?
WRDC 319, Sean. WRFN 262, Dave.
Thank you, 319 and 262. Any other check-ins?
WQRV 903, Tim.
Thank you, 903 Tim. One more time. Any other check-ins? All right, we'll check back in just a little bit. We'll get this started. Thank you, everybody that's checked in tonight. The topic is learned or burned, and we're just looking to share some information on any lessons learned in the world of two-way radio. And I'll start it off, and I learned this week that you got to watch the fuses that you have in your lines. I have a base that I ran an 8180 on, and then later switched to a TK8360 Kenwood that is putting out a lot more power, and didn't bother to check the fuses. And a 10 amp fuse does not work very well on a radio that's pulling 18 amps. Who wants to share first? How about 533 Jeff?
Good evening, everybody. Thanks, Mike. I love this topic. I wish I had something to offer. I'm too new at this game to have learned any real lessons, plus or minus, other than it does help to get involved with a club and learn from people who've done it before. That's all I have to offer. WQZZ533, back to net.
All right, Jeff, thank you very much. And Jay, 594, what have you learned?
I apologize. There's kind of ruckus going around the house here. What I've learned, just continue to learn everything on the radio. There's some things I still have some issues with as far as trying to find programming on some of these. I know lately I've been trying to figure out the privacy mode. I apologize. I got a plane going over the top of me. Privacy mode, and just trying to master the radio, and I'm still finding some issues here and there, but I keep working through it and learn new things. Can't really put my thumb on exactly some things that I've kind of learned better. Listening to you guys, I kind of learn a little more each time. And WQIQ 594.
All right, Jay. Good to hear you out there, and appreciate you taking the time. Bob, 701, what lessons have you learned, either burned or learned?
WRCM 701. Well, I've been doing this more years than I like to admit to. My original training was, of course, mostly shortwave listening and CB. Then when I got into professional end, I was trained by some former Coast Guard radio operators who I think trained me very well. And of course, the first thing they taught me was listen. Listen more than you talk. And something else I've picked up over the years that brevity truly is the soul of wit. Back to you, WRCM 701.
Thank you, Bob. Listen more than you talk. That is some very good wisdom right there. Rich, 664. I know you got something.
Oh, I've always got something to say. Well, a wise man once said man has to know his limitations, and I know mine. So I've learned from experience to hire a professional if I don't know what I'm doing, and that's why I don't touch electricity, other than like changing out an outlet or a switch. Beyond that, I'll let the professionals do that. I've got the burn marks on my wire cutters to prove it. WQDZ 664, back to Net Control.
All right, Rich, thank you very much. Yep, that's bordering right on burned. Keith, 636. Lessons learned.
Well, I have learned, and I'm currently learning, that antennas matter. I've bought several antennas for my HT because I don't have a base yet. And some of the antennas work better than the other ones. So you have to buy a good antenna. Back to Net, WRFS 636.
Keith, I think that's one that we all have learned. A good antenna and a good height. Height is everything. Keith, thank you for taking the time to check in. 640, Adam, what do you got for us?
WRCG 640, good evening, Mike. Thanks for taking the net. And pertaining to that, in particular, one of the things I've learned over about a year and a half of being in, GMRS and the ham radio side is that net control seems like it might be a daunting task, but once you got a little bit of practice under your belt, it can actually be a lot of fun, and it's a really great communication skill to have. And in GMRS and, of course, over on the ham bands as well, there's always a lot of great opportunities to practice by taking a net or working as an alternate net control. So it's a really cool thing, and, it's something that I think I recommend everybody try once just to see if they like. WRCG 640.
Adam, thank you very much. So let's see. Next up is 637, Steve.
Good evening. That's an interesting question, but the only thing I would recommend is always check your antenna before you put it into use for any length of time. I went and made a mistake of buying an antenna. Magnetic mount was supposed to be just fine for GMRS. And thanks to Tim 903, he helped me out with SWR, and we found out it was way out of spec, so I abandoned that antenna and went another route and basically made my own quarter wave NMO mount, and it works great. And always check your SWRs. It's always important. That's all I got. WRCG 637.
All right, Steve, thank you very much. Yep, I've gone down that road as well. You buy a name brand antenna, and they say it's supposed to be tuned specifically for GMRS, and I have found some that are not even close. Let's see. Next up, we got 254, Mike.
254, like a lot of things, I think in my short time here, the one thing I would suggest is the old adage of buy once, cry once. I had to start somewhere. I'm on a BTech, but just in the short time doing this, there's already things that I wish I had chosen a little higher end model, maybe the Kenwood TK380 or 390, particularly the programming, being able to program multiple channels and privacy tones. But in my defense, I didn't really know what those were until I got into this. So I guess you have to start somewhere. But now that I have a little bit of rope to hang myself, I think the next move will be a big one. Back to you.
Yeah, but that is definitely one of the biggies right there. I don't know how many of our newest members that we see come through, and of course they've bought one of the Midlands or one of the B-Techs, and they soon find out that there is definitely something better on the market.
Yep, absolutely agree with that. And like I said, now that I've got some slowly learning here and learning from the net, I'll be definitely looking for advice from you folks in the forums on my next purchase. So WRFV 254.
All right, appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time and sharing. Let's see. I think I've got 808. Mark, what's going on?
Hey, Net. Hope everybody's doing well. I am still way too experienced for that.
All right, Mark, I think you're probably on a portable. Let's hold that antenna straight up. Try it again. That was nothing but static.
You are indeed correct. I'm on a handheld. Are you reading me now?
Loud and clear.
I was just saying I'm still way too new to the game to have any meaningful experience to pass on. Although in just a short time I've been a member of the club, I've enjoyed it tremendously, and I especially appreciate the help that I've received from other members like you. WRF 808, back to Net.
Well, thank you, Mark. And one of the things I always tell everybody, I mean, everybody has to start someplace experience-wise, and I think you'll find that there's a lot of members here that are just waiting and willing to jump on any kind of problem that you might have. So thank you very much for that. Let's see. I've got 836, Pat.
Hey, good evening, everybody on the net. This is Pat, first-timer, new member. Looking forward to learning a lot about GMRS. And I am a firm believer in that cry once, but more often than not, I do not adhere to it. I'm running out of junk drawers, so... the only thing I can add is never climb higher than you can fall. And we'll turn back to that. WRBT 836.
Good words, Pat. Very good words. And thank you for taking the time, and glad you're part of the group. Let's see. Let me make a call out. Any other late or missed check-ins before we continue? Please call in now. All right, if that was a unit trying to call in, let's try it one more time.
WRSW 619 Raymond.
619 Raymond, I got you. Any other check-ins before we continue? Okay, hearing none. 645, Gary, you're next up.
WQ 645, good evening to the net. And I just wanted to mention, Mike, that we really appreciate all the help and the assistance that you give to a lot of our new members and the new operators in selecting the right kind of equipment and antennas and that type of thing. So I just wanted to throw that out there and let you know how much we appreciate you.
Well, thank you very much, Gary. Other than that, do you have any lessons learned?
Well, yeah, I do. I was thinking about it the other day, and I've been involved in radio in one way or another for about 50 years now, and I've learned plenty of things. Way too many to talk about all of them, but I will pick one, and one of them is SWR, which someone mentioned earlier, and it's much more important than people realize. That reflected power just can't get too high because it can damage radios. And one thing about SWR is that I found is that it can be caused by a lot more things than what we normally think of, like an antenna not being resonant to the right physical length for the proper frequency, and the wavelength is one thing we think of. Reset. But another thing can be putting that antenna and placing it or installing it too close to another metallic object, or something like I have done, like putting it too close to part of, putting it on the bed and of my pickup, but putting it too close to the cab of the pickup causes too much reflected power. So that can cause a problem doing that type of thing. So it's definitely SWR is something that we want to always check whenever we would do a new installation. And that's one of the things that I've learned, and I will send it back to Net. This is WQZ 645.
All right, Gary, appreciate that. And words of wisdom. Looks like we've got 795. Attila, you're next up. Lessons learned.
This is WQWS 795. Good evening, Mike and Annette. Since the beginning, I use most of the time handheld radios, and my lesson learned was that even if I always charge before my trip the batteries, I should have an extra one always ready. Okay. WQWS 795, back to Net Control.
Thank you, Attila. That's always a good one. You got to be prepared. You got to have something extra. Next up, we've got Sean. How's it going tonight, Sean?
Oh, I'm pretty good, thanks. I don't know if I have really anything else to add to that other than make sure you keep your microphone up to your mouth and enough time before and after keeping your finger on the button. WRDC 319, back to Net.
Yep, that's a good one. Keep it keyed. A couple of seconds in between is always a good thing, so you don't step on somebody else that's trying to get in. Let's see. We're down to 262. Dave, lessons learned? You still out there?
Yep, sorry about that.
All right, you're next up. Lessons learned?
For me, the most important lesson would be to research. My first radio was a Midland MXT 400, and after receiving it and trying to program it, that didn't work out so well. And then I returned that and ordered a BTEC GMRS 50X1 GMRS. Sounded good. I was able to cancel that before it shipped, so I'm on my third radio, which is a Kenwood TK80-180, and it's working out. So 3 radios worth of experience to get it right.
Well, you've done a good job. You've got a good, strong signal, nice and clear.
Thank you, Michael. WRFN 262.
Thank you, Dave, for taking the time to join us tonight. Looks like next up we've got 903. Tim.
Hello, Michael, and the rest of the net. This is Tim, WQRV 903, and I think my biggest lesson, having installed hundreds of radios over the years, measure twice, cut once when it comes to antennas, because you can't, there's no such thing as an antenna stretcher. And so just be sure the center frequency you want to put it at, cut it a little bit longer than what you think you need, and then adjust using the set screws accordingly, and you'll have success. And you might cut 3 or 4 times, but you'll hit that sweet spot in the middle of the SWR where it's low and you get very low reflective power, reset, and you will be very happy with the results you'll get. So that's my learn and burn for tonight. And this is WQRV 903, back to net control.
That's a good one, Tim. And along those same lines, I don't know how many PL259 connectors you've installed in your lifetime. I can't even count the amount of times that I forgot to put the collar on before I soldered on the connector.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I've done that many times, so I know exactly what you mean. And it's not only costly, but in terms of dollars, but also in time spent. And I've done it when they had the solder-on kind, which was a real pain. So anyway, WQRV 903, back to net control.
Thank you very much, Tim, and thanks for joining us tonight. And looks like I've got next up 619, Raymond. How's it going?
Not bad. Good evening, everybody on the net. Still kind of new to the whole radio thing. I guess the thing I've learned so far, I'm learning how to do the programming, which is actually, I really enjoy, kind of cool, getting an understanding of how that all works. Big thing I learned in the beginning was originally got a couple of handheld radios, wanted something a little bit better for hiking, for the go bag for me and the wife, other than blister pack radios, and didn't understand all the licensing and everything and difference between ham, and I just got lucky, and the radios I bought were 90 accepted, so I can use them for GMRS, and kind of that's what got me into doing this.
Yeah, that actual purchase of the radio, that is a big lesson to learn, and it's been mentioned earlier. Do some research. I try to get an email out to especially some of our new users as soon as they make their application. So I've been trying to get an email out to them as soon as I can, and hopefully give them some guidance in this area. But as always, about 90% of the time, they've already been out there and bought those BTECs or Midlands.
Yeah, I bought the BTECs, but I have to say the ones I bought, actually haven't had any problems with. Upgraded the antennas, and programming was pretty straightforward. It's worked pretty good. Of course, I haven't used anything else, so I don't have anything to compare against yet. So.
All right, Raymond, thank you. It is a continuous learning adventure, no doubt about it.
FW619 releasing back to net.
Thank you, Raymond. Thank you for being with us tonight. Before we close it up tonight, any other late or check-ins? Go ahead and call in now.
WRAP 262, Walter.
Walter, how you doing tonight? We're talking about lessons learned in the two-way radio world. You got anything to share with us?
I'm using an ICOM ICF626, which I'm very pleased with. Not long ago, though. I'm new to the field.
Yeah, and I believe this is your first time on the net. Is that true?
Actually, this is the second time.
Well, glad that you took the time to join us tonight. Even in that short time, any lessons learned?
Well, I would like to know more about it, but I don't know how can I get that info.
Okay, yeah, I've got your email. I'm going to send you an email with some information, and we'll get you on the right track. How about that?
Great, thank you. WRAP 262. Over to the net.
No problem at all, and thank you, Walt, for joining us. I'll get that information out to you. Any other check-ins or comments before we conclude?
I have a comment.
WQWC 299.
I copied you, Brent. Stand by. What was the unit that had a comment?
WRCG 637. Steve, I had a comment. A lesson burned me really good when I was in charge of FCC licensing for a company I used to work for. I've since retired from. Don't ever let your licenses lapse. It's very expensive, very time-consuming, and I was lectured at for having to cause extra expense to the company because of license search or frequency search or whatever it is they call, and coordination, and ended up costing about $800 by the time I was done. But don't let your licenses lapse. That's all I got. WRCG 637, back to net.
Yep, that's actually a really good one. I've heard that story many times of people that had even some of the older GMRS licenses that they wish they had now, but they just kind of figured, I probably wouldn't use it, but now they'd love to have that special license number back. Good lesson learned. Brett, 299, lessons learned?
I just wanted to say I had to change out a control head on my radio, and I thought I had the power cord unplugged from the back of the control head, and it wasn't out far enough, I guess, and burned the display on the control head. So make sure you disconnect everything first. WKWZ 299.
A slightly expensive lesson learned. Thank you, Brent, for joining. Any other check-ins or comments before we conclude?
Comment?
Okay, what unit would that be?
This is WQZ 645.
All right, Gary, go ahead.
Just a reminder for the net, set some time aside. On Saturday, June 20th, we will have a virtual meeting, a general and board meeting, and we'll be sending out some information to all the members in an email about how to connect to that meeting. And make sure that you will probably be muted on the meeting, just for your information, until you are needing to talk. Also, that will be 1 p.m. on June 20th, so set aside some time for that. And then also, we need some net control operators, and it's really, as was mentioned before on this net, it's really pretty interesting and satisfying. So I'll tell you what, just send me an email to president@azgmrs.org, or you can send it to Mike, vice president at azgmrs.org, if you're interested in becoming a net control operator and running some of these nets. That would be great. And I think that's all I have tonight. I will send it back to net. This is WQZ 645.
Thank you very much, Gary, for that. Yep, if anybody's got any interest at all, send me an email, let me know, and I'll get you the information. Any other comments or other check-ins? Okay, this is WQYP 827. I'd like to thank everybody who checked in and participated in tonight's net, and I hope to hear you all back here next week. Special thanks goes out to WPRR 517 for hosting the Phoenix High Power 550 repeater. This is WQYP 827. Can't even talk tonight, guys. Net control for the GMRS 1900 net, now returning the repeater to its normal operation. Thank you, everybody, and have a good night.
And good evening. This is Gary WQZ645, and I'll be your net control for the Arizona Emergency Services Group net. This net, normally conducted after the Tuesday night 1900 net concludes. The Arizona Emergency Services Group, or AESG, is part of the Arizona GMRS Repeater Club. The volunteers in our group, a unified team of licensed GMRS and amateur radio operators, receive training and also conduct exercises to expand their skills. And we have many members that have not only a GMRS license, but also AM radio license. And they have an extra tool in their radio toolbox to help them out. And we always encourage our team to increase their knowledge and training, and we have several courses that are available just as soon as we can start having courses again in person. Now, if you're interested in joining our group, just send us an email, ESG@AZGMRS.org. The purpose of this net is to perform a regular test of communications equipment, provide training in emergency procedures, and exchange information related to preparedness. All nets, whether for training, exercises, events, or incidents, are directed nets. This means that all traffic must go through net control. In addition, stations should notify net control prior to changing frequencies or leaving the net. Any station may break in at any time with emergency or priority traffic. Is there any such traffic at this time? Very good. We will continue with the net. And let me check with the net right now and see if any station would like to volunteer as alternate net control tonight.
WRCG 640.
Very good, 640, Adam. We've got you down as alternate net control. And now we'll go ahead and take check-ins two at a time. Go ahead with your FCC call sign and your name.
827, Mike.
WRDC 319, Sean.
Okay, we've got 827 Mike and 319 Sean. Any other stations?
WQWZ 299.
Okay, we got 299 Brent. Any other stations?
WQWS 795.
Okay, at 795, we've got you. Any other stations?
WQRV 903, Tim.
WQZZ 533, Jeff.
Okay, we've got 903 Tim and 533 Jeff. Any other stations? Yeah, we'll try one more time for any other stations to check in. Okay, very good. We're going to go ahead and continue with that. And just wanted to mention a couple of things. And one of those is our upcoming communications simplex exercise. And that will probably be, we don't have an exact date as of yet, but that will probably be towards the end of July. And we've got several, still some relay points around the valley. Need some stations there. So if you want to volunteer, go to that station for that exercise. and you want to try out your equipment, see how it works simplex and how far it works, well, that's definitely something you want to try out for, is this communications exercise. And we sent out an email that has the various locations, and go ahead and pick one. Just send us an email at AZGMRS.org. And I'll go ahead and let the repeater identify there because he has the right-of-way. And now let me just check and see if anyone has any questions or comments about that exercise that is coming up. Okay, very good. Something else that is going on is we're developing a new AESG website specifically for our group, and it's going to have a lot of information on there. It's going to have some reference materials that you can download. It's going to have an area for the public. It's going to have an area for members, and it also has it'll have information on upcoming events and exercises, and it'll also have a dashboard where you can go to one place for a lot of information. So I would say probably another week or so, and that should be up and running. And now our subject for tonight is RFI, interference. And interference is one of those things that it just bothers the radio operator. There are different kinds of interference. We're going to discuss a couple of them. And we're also going to send it out to the net and see what kind of interference problems you have run into and how you dealt with them. And there are many types of interference, but when we're running a net, in particular for an event or an exercise or an incident of some kind, and interference gets in there and causes problems, that just really doubles the problem in that case. So we're going to talk about, first of all, something that is kind of just an accident, and that's when someone accidentally moves their mic and their mobile around in their car or their truck, and it hits something, and you have an accidental open mic, and that causes problems, and of course it ties up the frequency as well. And another problem, of course, is on a portable. Sometimes that portable will not be in the right place, and it will have the same thing. Something will hit that push-to-talk button, and it will cause an open mic there, which is also tying up the frequency as well. And, of course, if we're using a repeater, it ties up the repeater. And if we're using linked repeaters, well, it ties up several repeaters. So that open mic problem can be pretty serious. So let me throw it out there tonight and see any stations that have had open mic problems that you had to deal with. There was another operator, or maybe it was you that had the open mic, and you want to admit that. That's okay. You can do that because it has happened to pretty much every single radio operator ever. So let me throw it out to the net. Any stations that would like to discuss any problems with open mic interference?
827.
Go ahead, 827.
Well, the biggest one that comes to mind right now is the open mics that we have found out to be actually people testing their SWRs. and not realizing that they're doing it on a repeater channel when they probably should have been doing it with a dummy load or at least on a simplex channel where they're not tying up the repeater. WQYP 827.
Very good, Mike. That's a very good example of what can happen. A lot of people will do that sometimes. They'll be testing out their equipment, and they'll do it on a repeater frequency and tie up the repeater so nobody else can use it. And you're right, it should be really done on at least on a simplex frequency somewhere. So that's a good comment there. Any other comments on this issue of open mics?
903.
And go ahead, Tim.
Okay, I want to kind of append to what you and Michael were saying, and that is that if you're going to tune an antenna and you're going to be transmitting on the 467 side, which repeaters do have for their input, you're going to need to be able to transmit on what might be a repeater input somewhere. So the smart thing to do is put it on a repeater input for a repeater you know you cannot hit. Then you can transmit for brief periods, of course, identifying every step of the way, just in case you might key up something, and do your testing there. And if you're within a good SWR, say on 462, 650, going to 462, 550, the SWR is going to be not that much off. But always, if you're going to do it, you have to do it. I have to tune at some point in time on a repeater. Reset on a repeater input, because otherwise your antenna may not be tuned for transmitting through a repeater. If you tune it for repeater output, which would be simplex, you could be a little bit high SWR on the input side. Does that make any sense? WQRV 903, back to Net.
That is a very good comment as well, and you're absolutely right, because you do have 5 megahertz difference there between the simplex frequencies and the repeater the repeater input frequencies. So there can be a difference in SWR there. You're absolutely right. Do you have anything else for us, Tim?
No, nothing further at this point. So WQRV 903, back to Net Control.
827 for comment.
Go ahead, 827.
Yeah, along those same lines, and one of the other things I've also suggested, that if you want to check the SWRs and you want to check it to make sure that it's good on one of our common frequencies, it's just as simple, and it's not rocket science here. Just simply key up the radio, advise that you're doing a radio check. You can do 2 or 3 of them, it doesn't matter. Just advise that you're doing it, what you're doing it for, and ID, and everything is good. WQYP 827.
Okay, Mike, that's absolutely correct. Just have to ID on there, and just a short test is all you really need to get a good SWR reading. Any other stations out there that have any comments on SWR, apparently, or open mics?
Alternate Net Control.
Go ahead, alternate Net Control.
I was one of the participants in the last Palo Verde nuclear station siren test. And during that event, we had an open mic that was holding the repeater open for quite a long duration, and it held it open multiple times. Luckily, it wasn't during a critical portion of the test. We were mostly just sitting, waiting at that point. Luckily, I was also with another station there, so I was able to tune my radio to the repeater input, and I heard a little bit of traffic trying to get into the repeater, but nothing particularly useful. WRCG 640.
Okay, very good. Now, that's an interesting example. Now, have they ever been able to do anything in particular when that does happen to try and locate the offending transmitter.
Was that question directed towards me or the net?
Well, that one is kind of directed to you, alternate net control.
Roger that, thank you. No, at the time, I don't believe anything was done to locate the offender. I can't be totally sure because we were pretty much cut off from communications at that point. I don't believe there was any information about it in the after-action report either. WRCG 640.
Okay, very good. Thanks for that. And of course, if that type of thing does turn into a problem, then we can always send out our crack team of RDF radio sniffers to find the offending transmitter. That is always something that we can do as an alternate. Any other comments, questions, or stories about open mics?
WQZ533, comment and question?
Go ahead, 533.
I haven't experienced any open mics in a while that I'm aware of. When I used to work for BLM, I remember a few times when rangers in the field would press the mic and we'd end up with hearing the radio and whistling and whatnot. Is there any standard procedure to reach out to somebody who's doing something like that? Do you reach out with on a simplex channel? I mean, what's besides locating them, how do you reach out to them back to net?
Well, very good question. Now, of course, as we mentioned, we could use RDF to try to locate them, although that may take a while. Another possibility is whenever operating a net for an event or an exercise is to have, try to have everyone have a radio that can monitor two frequencies, or maybe have two different radios, and one set to a separate type of guard frequency where everyone listens to if there's a problem, and then we can try to contact the person on that frequency. That is something that we will attempt to do whenever we run a net for an exercise or an event. Does that make sense for you there, Jeff?
Yes, thank you. That makes sense. WQZZ533, back to net.
Okay, very good. Any other questions or comments about open mic interference? Okay, very good. Well, we'll move on real quickly here to other types of interference. And of course, there's different types like intermod, receiver overload. Receiver overload can be a real issue because if you are very close to another transmitter or a very powerful transmitter, this can be a problem because it can overload your receiver and you won't hear a single thing, even though someone is attempting to speak with you. They're trying to transmit and trying to get you to receive, but unfortunately, your receiver is being overloaded and it just won't receive anything at that point in time. And I've had that happen several times. The last time was when we went up for an exercise up on South Mountain there, and we were in pretty close proximity to the broadcast transmitters up there with a combined wattage of probably millions of watts, TV transmitters, AM, FM transmitters, and it just overloaded my receiver just wouldn't work up there at all. And I don't think anyone else did either. So that will definitely happen. So that's one type of one type of interference that can happen, and you may not even be aware of what's going on with it. So any questions or comments about intermod or receiver overload? Okay, very good. And then the next one, of course, is, well, sometimes we have a malicious operator who is trying purposely to interfere with communications. And that does happen sometimes, and fortunately, not too often. And there are ways to find out where that offender is as well, and different ways to handle that. And that's in our procedure manual, if you want to take a look at that, in the Communications Procedure Section 5.0 of our Policy and Procedure Manual for the club. And that really kind of details that pretty well on how to handle that type of a situation. Well, let me throw it out to that. Are there any other questions or comments about this is just kind of a really quick overview of interference. Okay, very good. This is WQZ645 Net Control. Let me just check real quickly and see if we have any other check-ins tonight.
WRAP 405, Matt, late check-in. Sorry.
Okay, 405, we've got you checked in. Any other check-ins? Okay, very good. Well, that was our subject for tonight, and that's different kinds of interference. Just keep in mind, we do have that exercise coming up. Send me an email at esg@azgmrs.org if you'd like to volunteer for one of those higher elevation positions that we'd have for the simplex test we're going to be doing coming up in July. And we also will have some areas just down in the valley, too, that we need people to be able to do some simplex testing with those relay positions. So if you want to volunteer for any of those positions, hey, just send me an email again at esg@azgmrs.org. And let me throw it out there to Net and just check and see if anyone has any questions or comments on any subjects for the Net tonight.
362 to Net.
Okay, that station, try it again so I can hear your ID.
WRFJ 362. I'm just checking in and listening. Caught about the past 10 minutes. Just want to let you know I'm here.
Okay, very good. We've got you checked in. Any other stations that have any comments, questions for the Net tonight?
362 with a comment.
Go ahead, 362.
I was catching, and I'm on a handheld right now. I'm out in the field, but at my house I've got a about 120 feet connected of RG 8X with a barrel in the middle, and I've had pretty good luck with it with pretty low loss. I've shared my SWR readings with 827 and kind of learned about them, so I've had pretty good luck with that. So I think I bought 2 rolls on Amazon for I want to say $24.
Okay, very good. So you having pretty good luck with it?
Yeah, I haven't had any issues. The readings come out pretty good. And of course, I followed 827's recommendation for centers and things like that nature, but I was a little concerned about the length of the cable, but it seems to be working just fine.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, of course, when you have a longer length of cable, there is the possibility for some loss there, but it just depends on the cable.
Absolutely. WRFJ362 back to net.
Okay, very good. Any other comments or questions for the net tonight? Okay, very good. We will see you next week, and as I mentioned, probably by next week we will have our brand spanking new AESG website up and going, and we'll be able to try that out. I'd like to thank everyone who participated in the net tonight, including alternate net control and all the stations that checked in. This is WQZ645 Net Control. The repeater is now being returned to normal operations.
Uh, 405, 827.